everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ashley and today I'm going to be doing the book cover telephone tag challenge. This game was created by my friend Elizabeth over at the channel Reading Riley, and she tagged me to also complete the challenge, and it just looked like so much fun, so I was really excited to do it. The objective of the challenge is to be able to connect 10 different book covers in a sort of telephone style where you're connecting either the font or stylistic choices or just things that you notice that are similarities between book covers, and by the end you'll probably have a pretty different looking book cover at the beginning and the end, and it's just kind of cool to see how you connect them. At the end of Elizabeth's video, she ended with this book Constance, and she challenged to try to go off of that to continue the thread, and she tagged a couple different people, so hopefully it'll like evolve in a little cool tree. And I've purposefully not watched any other videos to see where anyone else has taken this so that I can just be unbiased and take my book covers in a new direction. So that's what I'm gonna be doing today, and then at the end I will be tagging a couple people to see if they are also up to the challenge. So as I mentioned, first up we have this cover, Constance. This is a book that I have never heard of or never seen until Elizabeth mentioned it, so I was going with fresh eyes, and immediately I already knew which book cover I wanted to connect to this one because it was just so emblematic of this cover that I recognize really well, and that is Recursion by Blake Crouch. Both of these books have this like figure 8 symbol, and on Constance it's embedded in this fingerprints. There's a lot of little fine lines, and then on Recursion the figure 8 symbol has a lot of fine lines that make up the figure 8, so they just looked really similar to me. I thought it was a really quick, easy little comparison. I think they're also both sci-fi books. I haven't actually read Recursion yet or Constance, but I know Recursion is a sci-fi thriller because that is like Blake Crouch's style, so this was a really quick, easy little comparison for me. Going off of Recursion, I thought of another sci-fi book. This one I have read, and that is The Circle by Dave Eggers. I'm still going here with this theme of all these little lines and these interlocking, interesting shapes, and so that's what got me from the figure 8 with all the lines of Recursion to the cover of The Circle, which has all of these little interlocking lines as well. This is a book about this woman who works for this big tech company, and it ends up being this really dark, creepy thing that's going on with the tech company. It came out quite a while ago, like around 2010-ish. So it's one of the first books I was reading about like megatech and how creepy it can be and gathering a lot of your information. And they ended up making a movie off of it as well, which I feel like I remember the movie was a pretty okay experience as well. Not a book that sticks out super heavily in my mind, but just a book that I thought of and something that connected these little lines for me. Then going from The Circle, the next book cover that I thought of was Clara and the Sun, another kind of sci-fi book. The thing that connected The Circle to Clara and the Sun for me was one, this kind of reddish color on the background. They have a pretty similar background color. And then in the Circle cover, you see there's a little C at the center of it in the little interlocking shapes. And so that also made me think of Clara and the Sun because they have the hand on the cover and then there's a little sun in the center of the hand, just small enough that you may not notice it, but it's a little detail that connects back to the title and the thing going on in the book. Plus they both got the title on top, author name on bottom. Like it just has a nice similar composition as well, so these just felt connected to me. Clara and the Sun is another book that I have read, even though I don't read a lot of sci-fi. I was just thinking of all these sci-fi books that ended up getting me on the first part of this journey. This is a story about this robot named Clara who is living in this world where like robots are designed to be companions to children, and so she lives in the store for a lot of it and really wants to be bought by someone and connect to a child. She ends up getting purchased by a child, and then it's really just about her observations about humans and the human experience. It's actually a really beautiful book. I think I ended up giving it like 3 stars. It's kind of slow, kind of boring, kind of dull, but it is just one of those types of literary fiction books that just get you thinking about things, and it was a pretty good time. Next up, going from Clara and the Sun, I wanted to find something that connected to this hand because I feel like I see hands on covers all the time, and I also kind of wanted to bridge more into my territory of thriller and horror books because I felt like I was gonna have more to go off of, and so I ended up taking Clara and the Sun and connecting it to The Shadows by Alex North. Both of these books prominently feature a splayed out hand on the cover. The Shadows is just rotated down instead of Clara's to the side, and they both also have something within the hand. So in Clara and the Sun, you have the little sun, and then in The Shadows, you have these little people figures that are nice and creepy. This is a book I really enjoyed when I read it a couple years ago. Alex North's thrillers tend to lean a bit on the horror side as well. I really like that style of writing that really edges between thriller and horror. In this one, you're following this man who is reflecting on his childhood childhood when he was a group with these friends and they used to mess around with lucid dreaming. There's this creepy creature in the lucid dreaming, and bad things happen when he was a kid and bad things are happening again now that he's all grown up, and there's like creepy woods. There's just a lot of creepiness in this one, and I love the lucid dreaming aspect. It was just a ton of fun. Going off of the shadows, the book that I connected this one to is The Outsider by Stephen King. This isn't actually a book that I've read, although I have watched the show adaptation that they ended up making of it, but this cover just really connected in my mind to the shadows. I remember this cover really well. It has this similar scheme of the blacks and the grays and the golds. Also on the shadows you have like an upside down hand, and then on the outsider you have this like upside down man, so it has this like upside down theme going to it as well with the creepy silhouette figure. So there was just a lot in common between these two covers, in my opinion at least. Like I said, I haven't read The Outsider, but the show I actually thought was pretty good. I didn't love the ending of it as much, which is a typical theme for me with Stephen King stuff. Like I usually like the concepts of them, but I don't always love the direction that they end up taking. But I remember it being about this guy and someone dies and then he ends up seeing there's like a doppelganger version of him, and it's creepy and he doesn't know if he's like imagining it or if it's real or what's going on. It was a very good creepy time. Next up, going off of The Outsider, the book cover that I connected it to, I took inspiration from the colors of this, but also the beady red eyes on the man in The Outsider, and I connected that to the book cover for Below by Laurel Hightower. This is another book that I haven't read yet. I think it either just came out or it hasn't quite come out yet, but I have read from Laurel Hightower in the past, so this one is really high up on my radar. This is like a Mothman horror novella, creepy creature kind of book that I'm super excited to read, and just these creepy little beady red eyes really connected for me between these two covers. Also just kind of like the composition of the cover, and then again like all the colors of it just connected to me. In this story you're following a woman who is driving through the mountains of West Virginia during a late night snowstorm. She is recently divorced and she experiences bizarre electrical problems, leaving her with little choice but to place her trust with a charismatic truck driver. I love these like survival, stuck, isolation, snowstorm type horrors, and I just really love the last horror novella that I read from Laurel Hightower, so I'm super excited to check this one out. Going off of this one, I wanted to stick to the moth theme and connect it with a cover with moths on it, and that is Primal Animals by Julia Lynn Rubin. This is a book I was just recently sent from the publisher. I actually hadn't heard of it, and so I was super interested to check it out. Anytime there is a book cover with a girl's face and then like creepy foliage or creatures coming into her face, or her face is like half dissected, I am always interested in those book covers. I feel like at some point it's gonna get old, but right now I'm still super into them, and this book cover immediately drew me in. In this one there's a couple moths on the cover, so I'm coming over her eyes, so connected it with the moths. This is a story about this girl named Arlie Gold who is going to spend the summer at a college prep camp Rockaway, the same camp that her mother attended years ago, which her mother insists will give Arlie a fresh start and will change her life. Little does Arlie know that once she steps foot on the manicured grounds, this will prove to be true in horrifying ways. So this is a YA camp queer isolation horror mystery type book, which is all of my buzzwords, and I'm super excited to read this one. Okay, going off of this book cover, I felt like I had a lot of directions I could go because there are so many book covers that kind of look like this, but the one that I decided that I wanted to go with was Burn Our Bodies Down by Rory Power. This one I chose because the girls are both facing the same direction and have like half of their face obscured. They're also both being obscured by like foliage on part of their faces, and the way their eyes are incorporated within the cover and like hidden within the cover I think is also cool. Like on Primal Animals, the moth little part is used for one of the eyes, and then on Burn Our Bodies Down you have one of her eyes like peeking out between the U in the title cover. This is another YA horror. I read this one when it came out a couple years ago. I didn't love it as much. It was okay, but it took kind of a weird direction. But you're following this girl who's going to live with her grandmother, and they've got these like cornfields, and it's a weird town, and there's this history with the family, and you're kind of like putting the pieces of that all together. She's figuring out who she is. It was okay. It was like a 3.5 star for me, I think, but I don't remember it a ton. But again, anything that has a cover like this, I will pick it up and read it. And finally, our last pairing, going from Burn Our Bodies Down, I decided to connect it to The Dead in the Dark by Courtney Gould. There's a lot of similarities that I saw between these two covers. At first I was like, is this a stretch? But then I saw so many things that just felt similar to me. First of all, you have these like wavy shapes on the cover with the cornfield, and then this like smokiness where the girls' faces are hidden in smokiness. You've got girls' faces on both of the covers being obscured in the shapes. The titles are both all in lowercase, and the font choices are kind of similar, and they both are sort of monochromatic. There's not a lot of different colors on them. Burn Our Bodies Down is like all these orangey yellows, and then The Dead in the Dark is all these like pinkish purple novels. So I actually found a lot of similarities between these. And The Dead in the Dark is a book that I have read and I have loved. This is a YA queer horror story that is about this girl whose dads are paranormal investigators. They have a TV show and they're returning back to the dad's hometown to figure out what dark forces may be in the town. And she's going with them and she's not super jazzed about it, but then she meets a girl there who she gets a crush on, except the problem is that the girl who she has the crush on has a boyfriend who has gone missing. So she's like all caught up in her boyfriend who's gone missing, and then more teens in the town go missing, and it's supernatural and it is just such a really good time. So I really love this book, really highly recommend it. It was one of my favorites of last year, and that is it. We have made it to the end. So I ended up connecting the cover of Constance at the beginning all the way to The Dead in the Dark, which have pretty much no similarities between them, but we were able to weave our way there through all the different book covers. And I was able to take a sci-fi book cover and make it end up connecting to a YA horror and bring more like horror books back into the mix of the book covers. So that is it for this challenge. Like I said, I'm going to be tagging a few friends here to also participate in this challenge. The rules of the game: you take 10 book covers, try to connect them with different features leading you to the next one. It can be any genre and you can choose any similarities, and it can be books that you've read or that you haven't read. You can choose to challenge yourself and just do books that you've read if you want, but I just did a mix of all kinds of things. So the people I'm going to be tagging are going to be my friends Hannah from Hannah's Recent Reads, Jordan from Sorry Books Solid, and Jessie from Reading with Jess. Go out and conquer. Try this tag for yourself. Even if I didn't tag you and you want to do it, feel free to go ahead and do it. And make sure you let me know on Instagram or tag me in your description or something so that I can check it out as well. Also be sure to tag Elizabeth from Reading Riley, who created this tag. Make sure to credit her for that. Of course, my camera died 2 seconds before I had to finish the video, so if the angle changed, that's why. Let me know in the comments down below if you had any other ideas going off of the book covers that I talked about, if you would have taken it any other directions. And also if you want to leave an emoji down in the comments to let me know that you got to the end of the video, you can leave any kind of telephone emoji since this is the telephone tag. But that is it for me. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video. Bye.